The GT2 European Series, powered by Pirelli, is by the seaside this weekend. We are at Misano on the Adriatic coast, and race 1 is coming up. 60 minutes of racing, and although it is not the biggest grid that the championship has ever witnessed, what we do have is a really competitive entry in the qualifying session earlier on for not just this, but also tomorrow's race. We were talking about really narrow margins, and we're in for 2 fascinating stints. Stint 1 with, in most cases, the AM, if you like, and stint 2 with the Pro taking over. It's going to be very interesting indeed. And it's an AM on outright pole. Philippe Prette, who goes solo. He's had 4 race wins and his 5th pole position. There's a 6th tomorrow because he's already got pole for the 2nd race of the weekend. And it's going to be interesting to see how he gets on against Piotr, new to GT2. We've seen him regularly in recent years in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. His son racing these days in Formula 4 and Formula Regionale as well. But Piotr with Egor Orachev new to the championship. David Addison and Joe Osborne are trackside. Alex Legui is down on the grid. And also on the grid is the poleman, Philippe Prette, and he can offer a thought or two before we go racing to Alex.
Philippe, another masterclass in qualifying. That was a brilliant lap, but holding this position off the lights will not be easy given how much pace we've seen the Lambo has.
Yes, but I will do my race, and we will see at the end, because it's going to be a very complicated race with the time, the weather and everything going to be very complicated.
Yeah.
We will see at the end.
Just how tough is it from your perspective in here? It feels pretty toasty.
I hope to win the 2 races.
Exactly.
I'm here for this.
Good. Have a good one.
So Philippe Prette concentrating, as he says, on his race. In other words, to win the AM. Yeah, OK, if he wins outright, then all well and good. He did win outright at Zandvoort, but that was, and he's in the same situation here without any extra time to be served in the pits. But it's not about winning overall, it's about the points in class.
Yeah, and it feels more competitive, the grid, than Zandvoort, doesn't it? Much closer in both qualifying sessions. So I feel he's going to have a big ask on his hands as we get an overview of these cars. Maserati on the left, Lamborghini on the right, then to a Mercedes, then to a KTM. All 4 different brands generating their lap time in such a different way. I think we need to look out for that Mercedes. Very strong Sector 2 on the back straight.
We are at 4:20 local time. The shadow's just lengthening a little bit as you're looking down on the grid. There is the car that's going to start third. Alberto Di Martin at the wheel of it, sharing with the team owner, Nil Montserrat. Behind is Bronek Formanek's Lamborghini that really did not have the pace this morning. In either session, it was a surprise, that car that's had 5 victories this season in the Pro-Am category, but it just didn't really unlock.
No, it really didn't, and they're hoping for a better race than quali.
Let us go back to the grid. Egor Orachev shares number 12 on the outside of the front row. He's with Alex.
Yegor, you and Piotr have burst onto the GT2 grid this weekend from Art Line, and the Lambo is looking very strong.
Yeah, today we find this more or less the good setup, I believe, and we think we have a strong car for the race. It's new for us to run with Pirellis, but they seem to be really good, and we underestimated how good they are. So I think we made some changes, and the car should be even quicker now, and I think we can really fight for it in this race.
What's the biggest challenge around Misano for you?
It's just the pace for everyone is very tight, and you need to be very precise and very just spot on the marks and everything. That's the biggest challenge. The track though is really nice, quite smooth, and you don't have much tire deck here, so that's a good point. Challenging and interesting track.
Which one's got the pace out of these 2 then? Philippe's a pretty good peddler.
Piotr is the best there.
Good. Thank you very much. Have a good race.
Correct answer from Egor Orachev in favour of his co-driver then, Piotr, circuit owner, team owner, championship owner. There's not much in motorsport he's not done, and he's a handy peddler. David Kajaya will start in the RTR project KTM. Gradually, the numbers of KTMs on the grid are starting to diminish, and more, I don't want to call them proper GT cars, but perhaps more familiar brands, let's put it that way, starting to come back on strong. And it's good that we've got an Audi on the grid as well this weekend, which is to be driven by Luca Piri, who prepares it, and by the car's owner, a certain Stefan Rattal.
Yeah, good to have the big boss on the grid, and he had a few track limits in qualifying, showing that it's all fair and no one getting favourable treatment as the drivers trying to stay cool. Bronek Formanek was, they've been so strong this season, but awful qualifying for both him and teammate Racina, so they got to get on the front foot in these races and see what they can do. And yeah, more cars coming to the grid, still missing a few regulars as well. So if we can get this grid into the mid-teens, Ginetta joining next year, that will help. The new prize as well announced. Kind of a partnership, isn't it? If you're in a Maserati or Mercedes, the fastest silver driver in one of those brands will get a paid GT3 drive as well. And these cars are beautiful. Look at this Maserati MC20. One of them's on pole. That's the other Maserati on the grid there, and expect them to go forwards.
And looking further down onto the grid, there is another newcomer. That is Lamborghini driver Diego Locanto. He starts fourth with Lucas Segu as the co-driver. That is Stefan Rattel's Audi, and Stefan is going to go first, trying to put his money where his mouth is, if you like, by getting onto the grid he's trying to promote. So if the boss thinks it's worth racing in, then the hope is that other GT drivers will think about it. Quite a few of the GT2 grid have come and enjoyed themselves for a season and then gone off and racing something else, but it's keeping them all together that is the main task. There are lots of GT2 cars out there. You've got these sort of invitational class type cars of the Lamborghinis affected away from Super Trofeo spec. Looking down there from the drone into the KTM, fascinating shot that. We don't really get to see it from that angle.
Yeah, it shows you the carbon fibre tub and the quirky opening mechanism to get in and out of the car. And yeah, we don't have the Porsche GT2 variant here because that's another good fast car, and there's a few of them out there that would be good to see on the grid as that grid finally clears, the final mechanic now leaving.
We've had Brabham in the past on the grid as well, haven't we? And you're right, we've had Porsche in the past as well. We have had Ferrari having a look. Mercedes came to the Red Bull ring and had a look and thought, yeah, we like that. So built a car, and gradually they are becoming more common and popular as well. So the 15-second board will be next. That then will make sure the drivers are ready for the start of the formation lap. There is a pit window of 25 to 35 minutes. There is a mandatory pit stop time of 155 seconds. Now, if you're in the top 3 in the previous race, you carry extra time in the pits. So there are 10 seconds extra to be served by Bronick Formanek, Stefan Rossina's Lamborghini, and also by Petrolicia and Victor Mirage, because they were the 2 class winners. 7 seconds for the KTM of Kajaya and Homola, and the Mercedes of Bure and Pascal Gibon, and then 5 seconds for Pampanini and Calamia's Maserati, and there would have been 5 seconds to serve for Oliver Freimuth, but he's not decided to come to Misano, so we don't have a 5-second compensation time in the AM class. The grid has Philippe Prette on pole position, with Showtron Kazama lining up alongside, Alberto Di Martin starting 3rd, and David Kajaya goes from 4th. Bronick Formanek is 5th, and newcomer Diego Locanto starts 6th in the DL Racing Lamborghini, ahead of Roberto Pampanini and Christophe Bure, with the back of the grid being Petrolicia and Stefan Rattel. That is how they're going to line up, and 60 minutes of racing set to get underway on a track that, for the AM, is a really interesting one. These long, fast straights, but a good mix of corners. You know, you've got some fast corners, some really tight ones, some twisty nature like turns 1, 2 and 3 all in quick succession, and then you've got the back end of the lap where it kind of loops around on itself. You go from kink to corner to tighter corner to hairpin. Yeah,
there's 5 really good overtaking spots here around the 16 corners on choice. Hard on brakes, hard on tyres, so if you see a car shoot off into the distance early on, don't expect them to be able to keep that pace up for the full 60 minutes. The car's full of fuel as well. Some may take some fuel in the pit stop, but that's just to get them the end. So at the moment they'll be carrying over 100 kilos of fuel, so that will affect the handling of the cars compared to when they last drove them in qualifying.
Still very warm outside. It's not quite as bright and sunny as it was when they were qualifying earlier on in the day, but the temperatures are still high. The track temperature is now 41 degrees. The ambient is 29.3 degrees. You look there at Bronick Formanek. Bit of head scratching, I think, from that Michelin Motorsport Lamborghini team, because the car today has just not looked there, has it?
No, it's a good sort of half a second to 7/10 off the pace as they get 2 by 2, and that beautiful Maserati MC Extrema will peel off to pit lane.
So then the cars now come up through turn 15. They get themselves into that side-by-side formation. The Maserati lead car in the sort of Vitaphone MC12 Maserati colours of FIA GT, FIA GT1 World Championship days, and now it is Maserati and Lamborghini on the front row of the grid. Number 1 then is Philippe Prette, and alongside in the blue Lamborghini is Piotr Kazawa. The cars now get the green light, we go racing, and a good getaway by Prette. Not such a good start really by Kazawa, and that's going to give Alberto Di Martin the chance to get up the inside as they drop into turn 1. And Formanek way up the curb, all over the grass. He wasn't for braking early, was he?
No, he wasn't, and luckily the blue Lamborghini took some steering lock off and avoided contact, then cuts across the front of Formanek, who has lost a load of momentum. That's allowed the top 3 to break away.
Has indeed. So under attack from David Kajaya there is Formanek, who again is way up the curb. Kazawa is under attack by Alberto Di Martin. We know that these are big, powerful cars with not that much aero to assist on the way. So pretty lively start as Philippe Prette leads then from Piotr Kazawa. Alberto Di Martin runs in 3rd. Then it's Formanek recovering in 4th ahead of Kajaya, and Locanto 6th.
Yeah, after a good start, Di Martin has already lost 2nd place. Doesn't seem to have much pace as that Maserati dives inside. Pampanini gets it stopped well and gets past Locanto. It's a great move there. Initially, I thought he'd outbroke himself, but the stopping power of the Maserati, very good.
As up front, Philippe Prette getting away just a little bit. The race-leading Maserati trying to go clear of the opposition. Here they come out of turn 10. So we know that Philippe Prette is an experienced driver of this car. So too is Piotr Kazawa, but not necessarily with the alterations made for it to drop into GT2. So possibly just feeling his way in a little bit. Di Martin is 3rd, Formanek 4th, 5th is Kajaya, with that front bodywork looking a little bit wrong. And then behind him is the charging Roberto Pampanini, who was the class winner at Zandvoort. Didn't win outright. That win went the way of Prette, but even so, a class winner. The points went the way of Roberto Pampanini and Mauro Calamia, who will do the 2nd stint. End of lap 1. Philippe Prette leads the way.
Couldn't be better for Prette, leading, like you said, got a good gap, and his main rivals in the AM class all the way down 8th, 9th and 10th. So he's got the most amount of cars in between him and 2nd place. That red Mercedes is the next AM car, as Pampanini still on the attack on these first few laps.
And Prette doesn't have to worry about compensation time in the pits either. He wasn't in the top 3 at Spa because he had a bit of damage. He had a puncture, so that took him way out of contention. Right now he's leading the way as Formanek tries to regroup after a slightly untidy first lap. There you've got the KTM of David Kajaya keeping Roberto Pampanini at bay. Number 7 Pampanini in the Maserati, run by the Dynamic Motorsport team that made its name in Minis and then in GT World Challenge Europe in Porsches. Diego Locanto is behind. Locanto was quick in qualifying but seemed to give away a lot of lap times to track limit abuses, and Pampanini has another big send at the end of the back straight and makes it work again.
He's proper Pampanini'd up, isn't he, for this? He is doing a mega job on the front foot, and they're being clean, clinical overtakes, much more like a pro than an am, and I mean that in a positive way. He's obviously been told where to overtake, and he's executing it perfectly. And where can he stop? Next on the list is Formanek.
Yeah, Pampanini has been around a long time, so he's an experienced driver and putting that experience to good use right now. So race lead car is that of Philippe Prette. He was 1.7 seconds ahead last time around. Pampanini and Calamia arrived in the championship at the back end of last year, did take a win in the mixed weather conditions of Barcelona, but Pampanini has raced in all sorts of things, from Italian GT to the Le Mans Cup to IMSA in America, Lamborghini Super Trofeo, all sorts of different endurance categories over the years. And there's another experienced racer, 53 is Christophe Bourret, and he's coming up towards the line now.
Pampanini's got so much pace. He's going to get Formanek here into turn number 1. That's 3 moves in the opening 3 laps. He did a purple sector 2, even with overtaking on that last lap, as you now see Kajaya trying to follow through on Formanek. I don't know if Total Energies do a rocket fuel, but it seems to be in that Maserati. Yeah. He's going to be in 2nd place, I think, within the next 10 minutes.
But that Michelin Motorsport Lamborghini of Brunet Formanek is mysteriously subdued. It's get up and go, got up and went. I think it just does not have the oomph to retaliate. As you look there at the 3rd place battle as it's becoming, Alberto Di Martin now ahead of the gold Maserati of a charging Roberto Pampanini. Next it's Formanek, then Kajaya, then Locanto. So Pampanini proving it is possible to catch and pass and overtake. Now Kajaya comes up to have a go at Formanek, but granted, Formanek is normally not as quick as co-driver Stefan Rossina, but he's giving away too much ground here. Yeah, we saw Rossina spin in qualifying, which I've never seen Rossina make a small mistake, let alone a big one. So maybe the car not drivable, and both drivers just having to rein it in to keep the car pointing in the right direction. But he's getting a huge amount of cars lining up behind, and Kajaya is going to get frustrated if this move's not done soon. So Kajaya in that KTM, which is relatively small engine. It's a turbocharged 2-litre car, but he'll want the nimbleness to count. And this is the part of the circuit with the switchback nature, the tight corners where it might just work. And he's got to get it done before that Lamborghini gallops away in a straight line. He's also got another Lamborghini bearing down on him. Look, the black car, Diego Locanto at the wheel of it, is starting to close right up as they come now onto that pit straight past the pit boards over the timing line. Stefan Rattal goes through towards the rear of the pack. So the race leaders currently work lap number 4. And as they do so, got Formanek and then Kajaya together for 5th and 6th places. And actually there's a bit of a traffic jam behind, isn't there? Because Locanto, Bure, Lisa and Rattal are all pretty much together as the leading group, the leading 4 now, start to break away.
Yeah, 4 different cars in this battle as well, so the brand's well represented. And yeah, that Lamborghini's got the engine advantage, isn't it? 5.2 litre naturally aspirated V10. As we can see, another Lamborghini Locanto having to defend from Bure, and that's actually given Kajaya a chance to break free. And he's really stacking them up after a strong qualifying. Locanto not able to get on the pace at the moment.
So they're going through is 53, the Mercedes AMG, Christophe Bure at the wheel of the car. And Bure is second in AM at the moment, but Philippe Prette not only is way clear, but he doesn't have any extra time by way of compensation to serve when we get to the pit stop out of the top 3 in that last race at Spa. There is the charging Roberto Pampanini. Now he's on the back of Alberto Di Martin, but now he's plateaued a little bit. He's finding it a bit tougher from here on in to be able to make a move against the race leader. And Pampanini, again on this lap, has done an absolute best first sector. Philippe Prette has done the fastest lap of the race, and look at him go. He is way clear now of Alcázar, and that's in the space of 4 laps. He's now got a gap of 5.5 seconds.
Yeah, he's just been banging in almost quality lap times, to be honest. And yeah, Pampanini was the fastest man on that last lap. He's taking that gap down just over a second. Now you can see on the timing graphic to Di Martin, that Mercedes very strong in a straight line. This won't be as easy for Di Martin as it has been on those previous 3 overtakes.
So there is the fight that is getting closer for 3rd place. Alberto Di Martin just ahead of Roberto Pampanini, and that Maserati looking quick now as Pampanini tries to get onto the back of the Mercedes AMG. That is another car that is devoid of success time in the pits. Up the inside lunges Pampanini. He's gone through, goes a little bit wide. Di Martin fights back, but Pampanini still comes off the corner ahead, and he's got the line for the next double right.
Yeah, and he's got that move absolutely perfect, hasn't he? Into turn 8, he gets it sent, but this will be hard down the back straight. Martin, luckily for Pampanini, doesn't get a good run though, and I actually think that's way too much, even for that Mercedes power, to fight back at the gold Maserati.
Through the kink they come then out of 11. There is Formanek, who this time around has shaken off Kajaya, who in turn has shaken off Locanto, who is under attack now from Christophe Bure. There in 8th place is the red Mercedes, 9th behind is Petrolicia's KTM, 10th is Stefan Rattal, giving the customers a chance here.
Yeah.
Rather than overtaking.
Yeah, he's within half a second, isn't he?
Yeah.
The last thing he's going to want to do is hit anyone, but competitive driver is Stefan Rattal, so if the move is on, he will send it down the inside of that KTM of Petrolica.
And he hasn't raced for pretty much a year, so he said this morning he was a little bit rusty. Comes up over the line as the leaders already long gone. Philippe Prette, there is Shertrop Kazava in 2nd, and Pampanini having got 3rd, a little bit twitchy at the end of the pit straight now. Let's see what he can do about getting onto terms with the 2nd place car, Shertrop Kazava. The starting point is 1.7 seconds then. Lamborghini to Maserati, as there is Roberto Pampanini. Comes out of Rio, that double apex 4 and 5 right-hander. So Shertrop Kazava, end of the 1st sector, is still quicker, in fact, than is Pampanini by round about half a second. So for the moment, at any rate, it is still advantage Lamborghini. And remember, pit stops come, or can come, after 25 minutes. A little bit of a mistake being made there by Pampanini. A bit wide up the curb, slightly compromised.
Yeah, Philippe Prette, the other Maserati, fastest lap last time by nearly a second quicker than anyone's last lap. So he's still got a lot of pace. Pampanini now starting to struggle as he pushed too hard on those tyres early. There is Philippe Prette, his last lap, like I said, fastest lap of the race. He's overall leader. He's Am Cup leader. And just remember at Spa though, he did pick up a puncher. So it shows you anything can go wrong from a dominating position. There's lots of external factors at play.
Philippe Prette was the pole position winner in AM and the race winner in AM in the equivalent race, race 1 last year. They're in the red t-shirt, Stefan Ortelli, neighbour and friend of the Prettes in Monaco, and always on hand with a word or two of advice, partly for Philippe, but mainly for Louis, his son, who races in the GT World Challenge Europe, and that's still to come today at Misano. Now, Alberto Di Martin may have lost his third place to Pampanini, but he's not dropping away, and Kajaya is on the back again of Fominek. He's caught back up as they drop now down into the right-left flick now, going up through turns 1 and 2 and 3, and Kajaya here is trying to force a mistake out of Fominek.
Yeah, it really is. He's just trying to show the front of that KTM. We've spoken about the engine difference. 5.2 litre V10 versus a 2.5 Audi 5-cylinder engine, so it couldn't be more different in how they generate the power, but lap time so close. The KTM needs to make the move really after a high aero corner, because it will lose out on the straights, but very strong on the brakes and through fast corners.
Down then into turn 8 goes Bronek Fominek. He's going to need to get in early, isn't he, and give that car over to Stefan Rossina. Abkazova will do the same to Igor Orodchev. Pampanini, I think, will still do the same thing to put Mauro Calamia in it pretty early on. So many of the drivers we're talking about in this race at the moment are going to do shortish stints.
Yeah, exactly. As soon as that pit window's open with 35 minutes remaining, whatever lap they're on, they will try to box then. They can't cross the pit entry line a second before that, so sometimes frustratingly close. But Pampanini, I'm worried how rear happy that car is looking now. When you see the brake lights flash on, the stability management system on these GT2 cars trying to keep that on the straight and narrow. Look how close those two are there. Kajaya, I think, is going to start to get frustrated in the next few laps.
I think you're right. If he's not already frustrated, he's been staring at the back of that Lamborghini long enough, hasn't he, as they come again up towards the line. So because Fominek is defending, so he's dropped quite a long way back from Alberto Di Martin. Another best lap of the race just offered up by Philippe Prette, although Christophe Bourret has done an absolute best middle sector. Through they turn. There is Bourret on the back of Locanto. And on the back means 0.6 of a second adrift, that is all. And one or two drivers continuing to improve lap times. Prette, Bourret and Petrolisa amongst them. There, you've got Bronek Fominek then. He's in 5th place. David Kajaya will give way to Mato Homola, who's a very quick touring car driver before he came into the GT2 field. So again, anticipate that car in early to maximise the drive time available to the faster of the two in those double driver entries.
Just feel if that KTM can get past, it's actually going to have some quite good pace, and they're only 2.5 seconds behind this battle here, so there's a chance this could turn into a 4-car battle, as Pampanini now seems like the tide has turned, and his amazing opening 10 minutes is starting to go the other way. The car starting to drop off.
He's also having to defend, isn't he? Although he cleared Di Martin, he's not been able to get away from him, so he's still having to be conscious to defend, and therefore he can't fully concentrate on Abkazova further up the road as the drivers turn again on through turn 11. There you've got the charging Fominek going through. And 89 bouncing over the curb a little bit. There is David Kajaya behind him. So this is for 4th place in Pro-Am and 5th in the race, because the leading car is an AM category entry. So you've got still Fominek ahead of Kajaya. Coming into turn 16. Fast forward, though, into the second stint where you've got differing drivers in these cars. It's going to be very, very interesting to see. There is Stefan Rossina, for example, who will take over that Lamborghini. Who can make up the lost ground? Yeah,
he almost looks dejected already, Rossina there, like not particularly in the moment of a motorsport race, is he? It feels like. And we've got so many sub-battles going on all the way down the field. Stefan Rattel now starting to lose the back of Petrolisa, and the Audi pretty hard on its tyres, so they might have to do a pressure adjustment once they make it to the pit stop window. So
Bronek Fominek then in the Lamborghini in 5th place. There going through is that fight between still Locanto, Bourret and Petrolisa, and Di Martin thinking about coming back at Pampanini. Then you've got Fominek next up, so Bronek Fominek, who began in Radicals and Formula Renault, then he went to the Lamborghini Super Trofeo, and right now the Slovakian driver trying his level best to get back into the hunt, but he's rather more concerned about keeping their Kajaya at bay. Through turn 10 they come then now, and we're about 10 minutes away from a pit window opening, aren't we? So still it looks as though there is time enough for partly here Pampanini to try to defend, and also for Alberto Di Martin to get away round him. David Kajaya, in the meantime, still frustrated that KTM has strengths at certain parts of the circuit, but not all the way around, because for quite a lot of the lap, he's a bit breathless against that Lamborghini. Formanek, though, right now is on the defensive because they're on a twiddly part of the circuit.
Yeah, you can see the KTM have a big slide and a big puff of smoke on the upshift. We've seen that all season long, so I don't think that's a problem. But Di Martin, I think, has got a chance of getting this position back next couple of laps. Best opportunity is down the back straight. If he can stay close enough through turns 8, 9 and 10. And Pampanini has been running wide and wide around 8, the corner where he made all those overtakes so successfully. But the rear tyre starting to go away. And there is Di Martin's teammate Neil Musrat looking on. I think he'll be feeling pretty confident of an overall podium and potentially a second place in the Pro-Am class.
Yeah, Neil Montserrat will take over that car. Neil, having raced in Formula Renault 3.5 in the Euro F3 Open, he got to that level before stepping back to run the team and then decided to come back into competition as a driver in 2023, driving in the Iberian Supercars Endurance Championship. He will take over that Mercedes AMG from Alberto Di Martin. Pampanini takes a wider line. It actually seems to work for him on that lap.
Yeah, I actually think it's intentional. I've seen it do it 3 laps in a row. I thought he was going too deep. It allows him to keep a minimum speed up quite high. Greater distance, of course, but seems to work well for him. And Di Martin has actually dropped off the back, if anything, hasn't he? 7 tenths now. Formanek getting closer. Formanek has now dropped Kajaya as well. Track limit warnings are going to come into play here for me. Di Martin already on 4, and I think I saw him do one already on this lap coming out of T6. Once they do 6 track limits, that will be a 5-second penalty.
And there are 5 already for Diego Locanto and, whisper it, for number 88 Audi. Driven by Monsieur S. Rattel, but hey-ho. Up the inside looks Alberto Di Martin. He's clawed himself back onto the tail of Pampanini. So this is game on still for 3rd and 4th places, all of which is enabling Abkazova to get away in 2nd spot. And the leader, Philippe Prette, is very nearly in race 2. He's that far up the road.
That was a bizarre look from Di Martin in that silver Mercedes. I didn't know if he had a problem. He was just going to T-bone the gold Maserati there, but that lost him a load of time. And the team were on the radio saying, don't do that again. It's not an overtaking spot, and you've just lost yourself a heap of time for no reason whatsoever.
Now they're going through in 789 is Petrolica. That is the race leading car, lest we forget, Philippe Prette, who is already 11.6 seconds up the road over Shota Abkazova. But Egor Arodchev to bring down a gap of, let's say, 13 seconds, shall we, by the time we get to the pit window. It's a big ask, but we know that Arodchev is a very quick pro.
Yeah, exactly, and he was nearly 2 seconds lap faster than Prette in qualifying, so those numbers will stack up, I think, for a very interesting last part of the race, and that is the beauty of GT racing with a driver change. It's 2 races for the price of 1.
And now, look, Formanek has not only shaken off Kajaya, but all of a sudden that car's woken up, hasn't it? And it's right back at the races on the back of Alberto Di Martin. So at the start of this lap, Formanek was over a second back, and now he's on the move. So he thinks about the inside line even, coming down towards turn 11. Formanek's not going to be able to level, and actually drops back.
That was strange, wasn't it? I didn't know if he was just getting clean air for a bit, but the gap grew massively.
Yeah.
I don't know if he missed a gear shift and then just popped into the middle of the road to make sure he wasn't going to get overtaken from Kajaya, but he's now on the back again. So that was the most bizarre 400 metres of motorsport I've seen from that car in a while.
And it's still sort of yin and yang, isn't it? All of a sudden it's there and then it falls away again. So what's going on? Formanek is able to make up the lost ground, though, very effectively, despite the fact he was a long way back early on. Now that's really elasticated. So Neil Montserrat watching on, possibly also saying what's going on there, do you think?
It's going to be a 7-car battle soon. Everyone's bunching up. We've seen a complete change in pace from all of these cars, and the car that looks the strongest is Kajaya, probably in that KTM, waggling all over the place. Formanek's going to get to the inside here.
Up the inside of Alberto Di Martin, and through he goes. Used the curb, admittedly, but a lap ago it was Di Martin crawling all over the back of Pampanini, and suddenly that Lamborghini looks like a completely different race car.
I can't give you any reason why, apart from the driver's woken up. The tyre pressures, of course, changed, but not that much. The first 3 laps, the tyres are up temperature. Then the only thing you can do is overdrive, and I don't think anyone has been guilty of that to a point where they would have destroyed the tyre in 20 minutes. But yeah, now Pampanini looks fast again all of a sudden.
Yeah, and Pirelli doesn't.
Yes, that is a problem, isn't it? Doesn't seem to have any power whatsoever. I worry that's a huge electrical issue, and I can't even see it on the map because I think the transponder has stopped transponding.
So Christophe Bouret picks up pace.
Going again.
Yeah, so whatever it was, the car has got going once more. and comes down to turn 8 as though nothing had happened. Meanwhile, it has happened for Fomanek, as we say. He's woken up, or the car has woken up, and he's got past Alberto Di Martin. We've got about 5 minutes before the pit window opens, so Fomanek now has gained that place. That's helping Pampanini, of course, get away a little bit. Philippe Prette, by the way, already gone through. Shotrov Kazava in second place, despite Egor Orochev saying he would be the quicker of the two out of Shotrov Kazava and Philippe Prette. It is Prette with a big gap up Kazava second. There is Pampanini in third place, Fomanek fourth, fifth, Di Martin, sixth, Kajaya, Diego Locanto in seventh spot, and a gap back to eighth place, Petrolisa. Ninth is going to be Stefan Rattello. We'll see whether or not 53, which is now with the transponder working, as the electrics are all on again, comes into the pit lane, or whether they have to soldier on track for a bit longer.
What that could have been. Need a full system reset. Sometimes you get an ABS error, wheel speed sensor can fail, and you need to do a full reset and go. But hopefully the car all okay to carry on.
So they're going through is the second of the KTMs. That's the car of Petrolisa, winner at Spa. So therefore it's got an extra 10 seconds to serve. So effectively it's last. It's not quite last, but it's a long way back relative to the class leader Philippe Prette, and with an extra 10 seconds to serve in the pit. So hard to overcome that unless you get a second stint safety car.
Yeah, effectively 35 seconds behind Philippe Prette. This car leading, the car dominant, and he's just trying to put these laps in, because when those green number panel cars on your time screen, the Pro-Am cars, hand over to the Pro Element, that gap is going to shrink. So he's going to want that as big as possible. They need a clean pit stop as well. He needs to get out of the car. He's the only solo driver, but to make it fair, he still has to get out and get back in.
So there, Shotrov Kazava coming through in second place. He'll be eager to give that car over to Egor Orochev when he is able. Igor being his regular co-driver in Lamborghini Super Trofeo, but now look for third place. He did game on. Pampanini has been caught by Fomanek, taking Alberto Di Martin with him. So a really weird stint that from the Lamborghini that seemed to be struggling for so much of the early part of the race. And now as we near the pit window, we're about 3.5 minutes away, it is game on, not only for third in the race, but second in class there. Pampanini, Fomanek, and behind Alberto Di Martin. It's going to be interesting this, as Christophe Bure, by the way, having got that car alive again, has just done a personal best and an absolute best in the sectors. Round the outside of Pampanini goes Fomanek, runs out of road. Di Martin tries to get up the inside to no avail, but Fomanek having a really good push now.
Yeah, Di Martin smart there, got on the brake pedal. They're all wide out of there. Track limits is definitely going to be an issue by the end of this race. They'll get to their warnings and then start getting penalties. Formula looking to the inside. This is Pampanini's move on Pampanini. Can Pampanini cut back? He doesn't. Is Di Martin going to get a run on him?
Diego Locanto is on 7 track limit warnings, and he's got a 5-second penalty. Locanto is in the black Lamborghini just behind this battle, so Pampanini falls back, and it now means that up to third is Fomanek, up to fourth is Di Martin, down to fifth is Pampanini, and still sixth is Kajaya. But a weird last few laps, the way that the pace of different cars has suddenly changed, some for the better, some for the worse.
We talk about yo-yoing. This is a yo-yo on a pogo stick. It's got no rhythm or form whatsoever. Pampanini losing 2 places in 1 corner. He started off the strongest and seems to be fading the most as Kajaya to the inside. Pampanini defending well. He did that against Formula, and then it cost him. Kajaya's trying to go round the outside here of 15. Can he cut back to the inside for 16?
Is this all about tyre management? You know, Pampanini pushed hard early on. We saw him making those big moves down at turn 8. Is it that Fomanek's looked after the rubber a bit better?
I think it's got to be. It's the physics thing. He's put so much energy through these Pirelli tyres. They just can't handle it at that sustained rate. But then the other thing is Prette has been able to keep the pace up in a Maserati. Different teams, so of course they have different strategies, but it does seem like Pampanini is fading.
So there are the race leaders turning their way again up towards turn 4 and 5. Philippe Prette has a minute and a half before he can think about diving for the pit lane, which is not going to be on this lap. But for some of those lower back, then you might be able to, because you'll be arriving at the timing line round about the correct part of the time period of the pit window relative to the overall time of the race. There's Alberto Di Martin then. He is still pushing, but now ahead of Pampanini rather than staring at the back of him. And not only has Fomanek got back up with them and got through the traffic, he's pulling away. So Di Martin, now look, there's the gap, staring at almost empty track, because the Lamborghini that was virtually nowhere early on is driving away from them.
potential race winners now. After looking like they're in a world of what pace will Racina have? We know he's going to be quicker than Philippe Prette, but we saw such strong pace from the Lamborghini in front of Formula in qualifying. I think that's going to be a big ask.
Especially as the number 11 Lamborghini has a further 10 seconds to serve in the pit. So right now, 22.3 seconds Prette to Formanek, plus 10, 32 because of the extra time to be served. Pampanini gets all sideways and he's just avoided by Kajaya. The car suddenly snapped away as he got back on the throttle, and that was a big, big spin.
Talking about using the rear tyre too much, I think that might be evidence there. Phenomenal driving from Kajaya. You can tell he's had some time in the police force. That was amazing defensive driving. Thought he was going to pit manoeuvre him out the way, but didn't need to. But yeah, A-star avoidance there. I was expecting big contact between the two. Lost time, of course, Kajaya there, but he'll be happy that now he is clear to go. And unfortunately for Pampanini, a bit of a 0-0 stint.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's going to be hard to recover any of that lost ground. The pit window is open as Pampanini did go by, but now he's lost a huge amount of time, and he'll be eager to get into the pits at the end of that lap, won't he, and give that car to somebody else, namely Mauro Calamia, to see what can be done about it. But they need a safety car now to bring them back into the game.
Yeah, massively so, and sometimes even the car rolling backwards can really confuse some of the electric system, so hopefully it's all okay. One Maserati that definitely is okay is Philippe Prette. He's actually tidied his lineup a lot through 13 after my comments on qualifying of him being on the dirt every lap. He is much, much better placed through there and really has had the perfect stint. Is the only car able to stay in the 37s. Expect him to go relatively long into the window, just purely based. He's handing over into himself, but if there were a safety car at full course yellow, you want to be able to maximise on that.
So through he goes, as there is Shotrab Kazava. Is he going to box? Yes, he is, to give way to Egor Orachev. So the second place car in, and we anticipate Formanek here will do the same. It's been a really strong end to the stint. He will come in for Stefan Rosina, De Martin in for Montserrat, Kajaya in for Homola, Locanto in for the Italian driver Lucas Segu, and that means Petrolicia will stay out for a bit longer before Victor Marash takes over the KTM. So all of a sudden the pit lane gets really busy.
Yeah, and it's a long pit stop for the GT2 cars, plenty of time, and you can see the KTM getting to work there. I think they've just put an air strap on, so they're going to do fuel once they get the driver out. And not only for them, that roof mechanism has to be closed before they can refuel. Yeah. All the normal cars just have to close a door and they're fine. The dump churn, they're going in 25 litres of fuel. Some teams will do 2, some just the 1.
But when you've got a pit stop to a time, and it's a generous time, it's less of an issue, isn't it? Everyone's got to be 155 seconds, however you do it.
Yeah, it just feels like there's something else to go wrong, potentially. Yeah. As Pampanini gets out of that Maserati, that all went wrong at the end, so he'll get out, door closed, Calamia giving a high five, Pampanini refusing it, feeling he maybe doesn't deserve it.
And Philippe Prette's had a very, very good stint indeed, an AM plus really, isn't he? He's not going to be on the pace of the pros, but he's certainly been a very, very fast AM, and he comes up then towards the end of another lap, stays out as Joe was predicting, so we're not quite at halfway, still 32 minutes are on the clock as he comes up towards the timing line once again, goes through, breaks the beam. Philippe Prette now puts 17 laps in the book, and up into second place should be Petrolicia's KTM, unless he pits, and Christophe Bourret is the only other one staying out there. So it's a very quiet racetrack at the moment because the bulk of them are in the pits.
Philippe Prette might think this is some massive practical joke and everyone else has gone home and just left him to it, because he hasn't seen a single car now for 28 minutes of this race, just because he has been faultlessly metronomic with his lap times. They've been in constant communication with the team over the radio, just making sure they don't miss the pit window. They don't need to get too brave here. You don't need to push it to the last minute. So I expect him to come past once, possibly twice more before they do their mandatory pit stop.
Away goes Dil Montserrat, the team owner, but very much a driver of this car. It looks really good in GT2 trim, doesn't it, that Mercedes AMG? He will follow Egor Orachev out of the pit lane. There's Mauro Calamia, and still in, remember, is Stefan Rosina serving the extra 10 seconds. Away now goes Matteo Homola. He had to serve an extra 7, and there is the race leading car then. That is Philippe Prette, very wide there. Down the pit road has just gone Stefan Rosina then, and as he accelerates away, he is going to be ahead of Matteo Homola's KTM. Luca Piri rejoining, or joining, having taken over from Stefan Rattel. So Philippe Prette with this 10-minute window, 5 minutes pretty much up, and he's going to stay out for one more, at least.
Yeah, he's got time for 2 more if he really wants it. He needs to be in pit lane by 25 minutes remaining. So as long as he's in, it doesn't matter if the pit stop hasn't finished. Pit stop's looking clean at the moment, timing-wise. No one under their time so far. Racina, like you said, 10 seconds more. And there's Pampanini's car now in the hand of Calamia. And that's gone 2 laps down with the pit stop.
It has, but it will get one of those back when Prette pits. So there is Mauro Calamia. Now he's one of the quicker drivers as well. Calamia, another experienced driver, successful in terms of being a Trofeo Maserati champion. He's also been a class winner in the Nürburgring 24 hours. But Philippe Prette is absolutely on a roll. And, of course, he's going to have a slight advantage in Stint 2 because he knows what the car feels like, he knows what the track feels like, whereas almost everybody else that he's up against are going to be fresh into the cars.
Yeah, a fresh being a positive though, because it is going to be tough by the end of the stint. He'll already starting just to think about where can I take some energy out of my inputs. Just loosen your grip. You sometimes even through a fast sequence of corners where he's coming now, just start to lean your head against the headrest of the car. You just lean it to one side and let your neck muscles just have a slight chill out as we see the pros now in these cars hustling on much, much harder, but carrying over all of those track limit penalties their AM co-drivers have given to them.
So there is Philippe Prette making that run out of turn 15, short straight to 16, or to pit in, and that's the angle that he aims for this time around. So in comes number 1 Maserati then. Fantastic stint that by Philippe Prette, his fastest lap of the race remaining for now, although almost everybody else out there is starting, because they are the pros in the Pro-Am cars, to up the pace. But in so doing, they're on a heavier fuel load, aren't they? Because the cars in most cases have had fuel put back in, so they were light at the end of the previous stint and they're heavier again now. Prette stops, team goes to work.
Yep, so he's going to jump out and they'll defuel as well, so they'll close that door. So this is the battle we need to look at. How close can this Lamborghini get? It's got to come past the pits and then once more. So don't get too excited when this car goes down the pit straight and overtakes Philippe Prette in pit lane. He's got to then go all the way around once more. 4.2 kilometers, 16 corners to do, so that will be a big ask. The pace is starting to rise, of course. We'll see these pros, but I expect this car still to be leading by the end of the pit stops. But how much of a gap will he have?
The pit stop of the Diego Locanto Lucasegu Lamborghini is under investigation, so that might be for time or it might be for personnel working on the car. Through goes Igor Orodchev, and also into the pit lane is Christophe Bourret to give way to Pascal Gimon. That's the car that's under investigation for the pit stop.
The time's okay, so he's over on the time by 3.5 seconds. He hasn't changed the driver ID. That's the only obvious thing I can see at the moment, but that's not really a pit stop investigation, is it? So I worry maybe a door wasn't closed for fueling. It could be a multitude of things.
Engine wasn't turned off maybe, or too many people working on the car, touching the car when they shouldn't. So the SRO pit lane staff will be keeping an eye on that, as there is then Philippe Prette, who's back in. The car is refueled. He's got to sit and wait until the signal can be given. And this is where the pressure is on the team to make sure the car is released at the absolute optimum moment.
Yep, and don't be surprised that the car's not pulling away even though the lollipop's up. The procedure will be lollipop up if you're clear to join, and then Philippe Prette will be looking at the timer, counting down, telling him when to release. That's a GPS system that works live, so he'll be able to just manipulate the speed if he's left slightly too early. He can't cross the line for another 25 seconds as we go down the end of this 620-meter long pit lane, 50 kilometers an hour. Great drone shot here as the clock ticks on. We can't cross another 15 seconds now, and he'll be watching that pit lane timer, just counting him down all the way to the exit line. We can finally release that 50k limit.
And the drone staying with him. I don't think the drone changed driver, but anyway, that's had its own pit stop. Here then is Igor Orodchev, who is onto the pit straight. There is Prette coming down the pit lane, and now accelerate to wait. So he's kept the race lead. Track limit warnings all reset, and 72 12-second penalty for too short a pit stop. So it was short on the pits, and a 12-second time penalty for the number 72 Diego Locanto, now Lucasegu Lamborghini.
Okay, my timing says it was over, so either I'm or race controller wrong, and I'm going to guess it's me. But one pit stop interesting fact here is Prette lost 3 seconds to the Lamborghini behind of Orachev, so they were too conservative on their time. Orachev was bang on, only 0.8 over. Philippe Prette was 3.3 over.
Yeah, that pit stop at number 72 was certainly not the quickest, so I'm struggling to work out how it's under.
And it doesn't have a penalty because it's not raced in this. It's not got a success penalty, has it? It's carried over because this is its first round. So, like I said, I've been wrong many times before, so I enjoy it and I'll continue doing it to the rest of my life, I guess.
Having said all of that, the car now in the hands of Lucas Segu has done the fastest lap of the race. So the car is quick, but this mysterious penalty will try and unravel that. So the field then currently working lap 20. That in the pit lane is the last car to serve a stop. Petrolicia giving way to Victor Marach, as you've got now Philippe Prette about to give us the real gap then over the charging Egor Orachev in second place.
Yeah, Prette now has got a completely different focus, a diminishing gap rather than a growing gap. Where is his head at? Is he just worried about class? Is he just worried about overall? Of course, it's both of those, and the ego loves the overall one. And for an AM car to even already have an overall win is amazing. But this is going to be a big ask. The gap now 9.6 seconds. Remember, that was over 15 before the pit stop. Half of that time loss was just in a slow pit stop, and half has been in the extra laps of this number 12 Lamborghini closing up.
Right, so 9.6 seconds is the margin. Fastest lap of the race now by Matto Homola, interestingly, in the KTM. He's on a 1:35.799, and we've got 24 minutes still on the clock. This is the car that is currently in 4th place and about to get 3rd away from the Lisha Marat's KTM. So it is the Neil Montserrat and Alberto Di Martin Mercedes AMG. Neil Montserrat pushing on.
And interesting, with all those compensation times, some of the gaps have grown, so we're just going to have to see who's catching. That second place Lamborghini is getting closer, maybe not at the rate I thought it would. Seems like at the moment the pace is maybe a second, 1.2 seconds out quicker than Philippe Prette. And that should be just enough to catch by the end of the race, but then will the Lamborghini be able to overtake the Maserati?
The other one that's not quite doing what you anticipated is Stefan Rossina in the Bronek Formanex started Lamborghini. Maybe it's going to be a similar stint where it's a bit slow until the car gets lighter on fuel and then everything clicks. But right now the lap times are about a second away from comparable cars. So Rossina at the start of his stint doing what Formanek did, giving away time. Yeah,
and actually this Lamborghini only caught by half a second on the last lap, as we'll see that live gap now. It was 9.1 across the line. We'll get an update now as it comes through sector 1 and pushes through the beam. It's come down to 8.6, so he only found half a second on the last lap. He's found 0.4 in the first sector of this lap.
So there is Egor Orachev. So despite our expectations, it's not quite working out as he would have wanted or the team would have wanted, and comes once more then now down through the left-hander of turn 8. So the margin 9 seconds. Now, with all due respect to Philippe Prette, AM racer, been in the car now for 40 minutes, give or take. Is he going to start to tire towards the end? And would that be a lifeline for Orachev, or is a GT2 car not that physical in terms of driver stamina?
Both physical as he runs right again. That was the line he was doing in qualifying. That scares me, because you get on that dirty part, the chance of the rear coming round goes up. Physically, yes, you will get a bit tired. It's more the mental fatigue. He's just so hyper-focused for this long. You make one mistake and it's hard to sometimes get out of that rut. As we look at this battle, Homola has really caught up to the back, hasn't he, now, of Rossina. And what can they do about this? We've seen this KTM struggle to get past cars in a straight line, and the Lamborghini is quick at the end of the straight.
So nose to tail they run. Formanek just ahead then here. Or now Rossina in the car started by Formanek, just ahead of Matto Homola. Well, we had these two cars battling early on, didn't we, when it was Formanek versus Kajaya, but now Homola all over the back of Rossina, who is definitely struggling to match the pace that the car seemed to have at the end of the earlier stint. Its best lap is a 1:37.1. The last lap is a 37.3. Through they come, and here is the Mirage Pirelli-Calamia battle. This is 7th, 8th and 9th, and this is for position.
Yeah, this will be a really good battle here. Calamia in the Pro-Am class, so expect him to have the advantage on the 2-Am cars in front of him. You can see him flashing his headlights on that Audi R8 GT2. You said about how good the Mercedes looks. I think the Audi out of the GT2, GT3 and GT4, the GT2 is the best looking out of the three as well. They're very mean, purposeful looking cars. As he looks to the inside now, after Miraz backs out of it, is Calamia now going to try and go round the outside? That would be an interesting move. That doesn't work out too far a distance. He will get a good run out of here on this short straight to 8.
So the race lead car on lap 23. The gap has come down a bit, 8 seconds, as here is Luca Piri then on his toes to try to get up the inside of Victor Marash. Calamia in the gold. Maserati tries to do the same, but a good move by Piri. And now Calamia went for a gap that oh so nearly closed on him.
Yeah, I don't think Miraz had seen him, in all honesty. It just shot across the front of him. Calamia then sends it round the outside. Job done. Good move. He'll want to dispatch the Audi as quickly as he can, but they are then 12 seconds behind the other KTM of Homola. So it's going to be a big ask for Calamia in that gold Maserati to do anything else apart from get past this Audi before the end.
And confirmation that the pit stop time by, if you like, the regulation for the Lecanto and Segu Lamborghini was correct, but what they didn't do was add on the 5 seconds they got for track limits from earlier on. So they did the pit stop time, but not the extra 5, so it was fractionally under, hence the penalty comes. So that the pit stop was correct to the regulation pit stop time, but they, like us, had forgotten about the 5 seconds that they had to do for the track limits. We were thinking compensation time for success in terms of the longer pit stops, but they had that 5 seconds for Lecanto's 7 track limit warnings from earlier on.
I was clever enough to know I was wrong, but too stupid to know why, basically. But that'd be hard on the team as well, because their pit lane timer will be preset. So to get given another 5 seconds, maybe they haven't communicated it to the driver. You need to be +5 on exit. Could even be a team issue, couldn't it, early into the championship for them? Do they know it's in the pit stop, not at the end of the race? Yeah,
exactly, because it's called a time penalty rather than a pit stop penalty, isn't it? So, it's all part of learning and the different processes of different championships.
The only thing is the penalty is for the 12-second time penalty. I don't understand where the 12 was, because they were only 1.7 under. But anyway, I'm just trying to defend stupidity here on my part. And,
defending his place is Formula X co-driver Stefan Rossini, he says, moving on. Because Mato Homola now is all over him like a cheap suit. He's tried the curb, he's tried brute force, he's tried cheek. None of it's worked, but it is not for the want of trying.
No, the 2 Slovak drivers here doing anything but being slow. And is the KTM able to get to the inside here? Trying it late on the brakes. Rossini goes even later to defend that by just hanging it out round the outside. But Rossini really with anything he can do pace-wise to get away from the KTM.
And it's exactly what we saw in the early part of the first stint. The car just looks lethargic, and then eventually, either when it gets lighter or when the tyres come in, it clicks and it all works. But over the line, that KTM is all over the back of Rossini. So Mato Homola, very good touring car racer, with Stefan Rossini, who was a front runner in FIA GT1 World and also Porsche Super Cup before he went off to build up his car accessory business in Slovakia. He's under attack, and now Homola commits to the inside line but can't get there in time. So he's up the curb and stays as best he can alongside. More curb used, but he's on the outside line for the next corner, but he's got the job done. It was pretty courageous. He's way out wide all over the curb, and I don't think race control is going to like that.
No, it was a track limit. I don't think he overtook from doing that. And if you're going to do a track limit, 1 inch is the same as 1 mile, and he was closer to the latter in distance, wasn't he? And it's worked for him, and expect him to escape. Can he do anything about the 13-second gap in front? I think not.
And we've got 17 minutes to go as Luca Piri and Mauro Calamia run together. And this is for 7th place overall. Calamia going a bit deep into turn 8. He tried the Pampanini line, but he couldn't crack it. So Piri comes out slightly further ahead. Luca Piri's LP racing team has been one of the stalwart teams really supporting GT2, a neighbour of Stefan Rattel, and they got talking during lockdown and discovered there was a shared interest in GT cars, and a friendship formed. And even though Luca Piri had been a GT racer, I don't think they'd ever really had the relationship that they did during the early part of lockdown onwards. And it was when the lockdown was lifted and people went racing again that Stefan persuaded Luca Piri that coming back to racing rather than just on a sim would be a good idea. And why don't you run some cars? Well, Piri loses out to Calamia. Through he goes, up the inside line. So Mauro Calamia trying to rebuild the race that started off really well from Pampanini. He got that car into 3rd place, and then gradually fell away, and the spin didn't help either.
No, exactly. Pirelli held on to that much longer than I thought he was. Someone else who's held on to it for much longer is this man, Philip Prette, overall race leader, still got 5.5 seconds. The 72 Lambo of Sego still hasn't come in for that drive-through penalty either, has it? The stop-go we were talking about for the pit stop being too short.
Well, that's a time penalty again. It's 12-second time penalty, so that will be added on at the end.
Okay.
But what they should have done was add the 5 seconds on at the stop rather than expect that to be added on at the end. I think if you have a time penalty and you can serve it in the pit stop, do it. Otherwise, it does get added on at the end. So if it had have been a track limit penalty now, it could have been added on at the end. But because there was the pit stop, you could have done it then and they didn't clear it.
So it's going to get interesting then. If he's got 12 seconds to add, Hommler 13.9 behind him at the moment. So that gap effectively 1.9, although it has just grown to 2.4 now with that 12-second penalty for the 72.
Now there's the gap look between the leaders, and for about the first time in living memory, you've got the two in the same shot. So 4.8 seconds it's come down to. Igor Orachev is on a mission, and he's got a quarter of an hour in which to do this. It's on.
Really is on, I think, and the only thing is the pace has ebbed and flowed. It hasn't been a consistent chipping away of lap time. Sometimes it's half a second, sometimes it's 1.2. Is that Prette or is that the Lambo? It depends on the lap at the moment, but I'd say Prette's been pretty metronomic. His last lap was within 0.6 of his fastest of the race, which is very impressive 45 minutes into this stint.
Yeah, there is Philippe Prette then, going through, double Ferrari Europe champion. And has also gone well in the Asia Pacific Championship, winning that. There is Igor Orachev coming up towards us then. In the first sector, he was 0.6 quicker. And here, look, Rosina versus Hommler, absolutely tied together. And of course, here you've got the Lamborghini then back ahead of the KTM, but all up the curb goes Rosina. To the inside line goes Matto Hommler, and is he going to be able to outbrake him diving down towards the right-hander of turn 8? Yes, he does. He gets back ahead. I just wonder whether Hommler gave back the place. There was no requirement for him to do it, but of that, having checked out, he was then behind again.
Yeah, and it just goes to the ebb and flow of this GT2 race, doesn't it? It doesn't matter who was quick on the last lap. It's like it's reset every time, and then the other car can have a go back at it. KTM still bellowing smoke out of that Audi 2.5 litre engine, the canopy lifting slightly. We saw that earlier in qualifying, so it hasn't fallen off yet, so it should be okay.
Just wonder, though, whether the team said, yeah, that was a bit risky with all the track limits, give the place back and try again, because it's odd that he would have lost the time, unless he made a mistake. There are the race leaders. 3.8 seconds now is the gap, so down by another full second, that margin, Prette to Orachev. Even if Igor Orachev doesn't catch him, he's still going to win his class, so he's still going to get the points, but he would dearly love, first time in the championship, a race win.
Yeah, and there's the lap gains on the graphic there. So we nearly did 2 seconds 3 laps ago. It was a second, then just over a second again. And now we're 2.1, so we should be within striking distance in the next 2 laps, 2.5 laps potentially. And then can he overtake? Will Philip Prette defend? That's going to be the most interesting element, is what's the body language of this Maserati going to be when he's got the Lamborghini on the rear of it?
So there is Igor Orachev then. 3.8 seconds was the margin in Sector 1. He was about 0.6 quicker. They're coming up to the completion of Sector 2 then as they head towards the timing beam. And a 37.0 for Prette, a 36.8 for Orachev. So he's managed to therefore pull back 0.8 of a second. And he's got another sector in which to gain another 10th or 2. So Orachev chipping away, pushing on, way up the curb coming out of turn 13. Got to be careful not to rack those up because, yeah, there's a track limit warning coming for that. So Igor Orachev there again, absolutely on the giddy limit, the wheel on the line rather than over it. That's just about acceptable. To the timing line he comes, and as Philippe Prette goes through, 3.8 seconds last lap becomes 1.7 this time around. So a real significant gain by Orachev there.
The other significant gain he's done is 3 track limits in quick succession.
Right.
In under 2 minutes on the timing screen, he's now up to 4 track limits, 3 in quick succession. He's 2 away from a penalty. He's used them up at an inefficient time, in my opinion. He should have been keeping them in the bank. Car in front, Philip Prette, only done 1.
And when you say he has wrapped them up, you're dead right, because they're reset for the second driver in this category. So it's not that he's inherited some of Abkazova's penalties. These are all his infractions over the line. So Igor Orachev has got to rein that back now. The gap is down again in Sector 1 by another 0.3 of a second. He's edging ever closer to Philippe Prette. And because he can see the car ahead and he's driving even harder, that is why the car is now prone to these little track limit offences. But yeah, he can't afford to do more than, well, one. Now he's got one more, because 6th is a penalty.
Yep, so he's got to drive 10 minutes around this Misano circuit with a revolver on his temple and his finger itching on the trigger. That's going to be a load of self-harm if he makes a mistake here. And he's not seemed to have caught up quite as much in that middle sector that lap. And yeah, sure enough, Philippe Prette ever so slightly quicker in Sector 2 on that last lap. The team looking on there, the Prette family cheering that lead Maserati on. And then we have this ART line car of Orachev chasing down, just about leaking up that last corner. That one life is on a tightrope.
It is indeed. He's now got the driving standards flag, so he's had the warning. After that, the penalties come. So there is Stefan Ortelli looking on. He can see his man now only ahead by 1.5 seconds. There is Philippe Prette, and he will know that he's being reeled in, and Philippe will have to now make a decision whether to feel demoralised that he's not going to win outright, or just think, no, class win, that's the focus, don't have to fight this. Okay, he's faster. This is a guy that's raced in the World Endurance Championship, the European Le Mans Series, high-level single-seaters. He's a pro. I'm a businessman that goes racing very quickly. Not my battle. And Prette, he's going to try to fight as best he can, but it's keeping ahead of Luca Piri, and he is a long way ahead of Luca Piri, that matters.
Yeah, and that's going to make it a bit easier for them to decide what to do. Ortelli, the driver coach in the cold light of day, where we tell him, don't fight this. If it was Ortelli sat in the car, he'd be fighting it like everything depending on it. That's the difference when you're in the heat of the battle, and that's what we're going to start to see. He's getting close to micromanaging the race engineer there, every time talking, trying to give his 2 cents on what's important. The Lamborghini getting closer and closer. The driver, Orachev, Kurdistan. It's good to get a nation that I haven't commented on about in motorsport there. Kazakhstan as well involved in the teammate and the running of this car. We've got the Georgian driver, Kajaya, as well. So we've got a few interesting emerging nations into this GT2 field.
As there is Philippe Prette making the run up out of 16, heading towards the timing line, and behind it is the hard-charging Igor Orachev, who goes through then, and 1.5 seconds last time is 1.2 seconds, so not as much of a gain on that lap. It's kind of stabilising now, but Igor Orachev possibly is not being able to push as hard because, as you've been saying, he's got this gun to his head almost in terms of track limits.
Yeah, he's heavily shackled, isn't he? Prette running wide there, though. That's going to be 2 or 3/10 time loss, and that's a mistake you want to see as a driver behind you now. No, you're getting closer. You're going to have to start to flash the headlights. You're going to have to show your nose into some of these brake zones, which is exactly what he does as they come into weight. He's just trying to distract Prette, miss the brake point, make him go in deep, make the move easier. If the car's off the track, it's not a real overtake, but it still counts.
So nose to tail, these are your 2 class leaders. Am ahead of Pro-Am. It would kind of, in a sense, feel wrong if Philippe Prette weren't to win, because he's dominated the race. He's led more laps than anybody, and in the very last knockings, he's in danger of losing the lead. And then you see the Pro-Am car win, and you think, oh, it must have been easy for them. But actually, Philippe Prette has done a Herculean task out there in these temperatures, still to lead the way. And Igor Orachev, just as Philippe Prette doesn't need to fight him, he doesn't need to fight. Yeah, he'd like the race win, but equally, even if he finishes second, Orachev still wins the class, takes the points for him and Shodrab Kazava, and crucially takes them away from Rosina and Formanek, who are fighting for that championship.
Yeah, Prette showing what he's made of, though. That's his best middle sector he's done of the 30 laps so far. He's led every single one of those 30 with 7 minutes remaining. It would be brutal if it wasn't the last lap he was leading.
Homola is still on a mission in the KTM. Fastest lap there is Neil Montserrat, who goes over the line 3rd, and that last lap for him was a 36.4. He's a fraction faster than these two, but it is only a fraction, so he's not getting there in time as Prette and Orachev come then up towards turn 4, 7 minutes to go. It's still looking as though Orachev is going to do this, and it might even happen on this lap, because all of a sudden he's caught right up.
Prette doesn't like Sector 1, doesn't like Turn 4 Apex. That's 2 laps in a row. And again, on the run now to 8. The Lamborghini looking to the inside. No flash of the headlights just yet. There's a big slide. He's going to send it. But I think that was an accidental overtake. He goes in deep and gets it stopped. That wasn't the most normal move you'd see, but he gets it done.
And a very happy team Shotrap Kazava leading the applause then in the black shirt just at the front of the shot. And Philippe Prette gets it wide there going up through turn 10. So having made a slight error at 8, he's a bit rattled now and he needs to regroup and think not about losing the outright lead but about still being comfortably ahead in his class. And another class win beckons then. He's already had 4 category wins in AM this year. That's Neil Montserrat, who might yet be able to get up to second place if now Philippe Prette starts to lose the fight because he's lost the outright lead and just brings it to the end. Then Montserrat's got a chance of gaining another place with still nearly 6 minutes to go.
Yeah, I feel that was an accidental overtake because Orochev broke on the curb coming into 8, and that serrated nature lost some rear traction. It was almost like the handbrake was pulled up and he had to send it to the inside to not hit Prette. I think Prette actually had to take some steering lock out to avoid contact. He could have taken the line. There would have been contact. It wouldn't have been his fault. He was thinking of the championship in that regard. Smart driving. But I think Philippe Prette will actually be quite aggrieved by that. He got forced into letting that overtake happen through no fault of his own.
And Philippe Prette to Neil Montserrat 5 seconds. Last time around, Montserrat did a 36.3 and Prette did a 38, but that was a compromise lap as you were describing. So looking down from the drone, that's the leader. And Igor Orochev then speeds away down through that little kink at turn 7. It's a long part of the circuit. That's the third place car doing the chasing, coming out of 6. In 4th place on the road is Lucas Segu, but he has got that extra time to be added on at the end, 12 seconds. And then you've got Matto Homola. Now, Homola is 15 seconds back, and last time around was quicker, so Homola might be able to get one further place with the penalty for Segu. That's Montserrat then. He's 3rd and he's still chasing.
Yeah, just worry with Homola. He did the fastest lap of the race and his pace has gone nowhere. He hasn't been able to really keep that gap. It's been ebbing and flowing, 13.5, 15 seconds. So I think Segu might get away with that 12-second penalty, which was really from his teammate, wasn't it? Doing track limits in stint 1 and then the team not serving the 5 seconds.
There is Lucas Segu. Comes down towards turn 12 then, so with 1 penalty not served, and therefore that has a knock-on of an extra penalty to make up the lost time. Comes up towards the hairpin. Interesting debut though. We know that Lucas Segu is good from his second places for a couple of years in Italian GT, from good pace showed in Super Trofeo at Monza, and Diego Locanto I think trying to work out which championship he wants to carry on doing, whether it's Super Trofeo because he's dipped into that, whether it's GT2, he's dipping in this weekend, but he wants Lucas Segu with him as a co-driver, that's for sure, because Segu is very fast, comes across the line, and as he goes by, that lap is not quite as good as Montserrat's, but he's still hanging on to 4th place, and he needs to stay 12 seconds ahead of the chasing Matto Homola. 3.5 minutes to go, and that is Lucas Segu heading into turn 4.
Just looking down the order, Racine has now dropped 11 seconds behind Homola in that KTM. So they've had no pace. Here is our race leader. And has looked pretty dominant now. He's got past 1.3 seconds to Prette. He still has that track limit warning issue, doesn't he, where you can only afford that one more, and then the one after that would be a penalty, but that is now much easier. He's leading the race.
So he can almost drive within himself, as Philippe Prette still pushing hard in second place. And actually, 1.2 seconds back, he's not lost heart too much, has he? He is still doing his best. Now, almost in a sense, he finds it easier to chase than be chased. He's got something that he can aim for, something to measure against.
Yeah, and Montserrat really is only taking, what, 6-7 tenths out a lap, so he's been able to keep that pro at arm's length and really make sure he, one, secures the AM win, which is never looked in doubt, to be honest, in this race 1 here. But second overall as well will be a very, very pleasing result. Well,
indeed. So he's had an outright win this year as Philippe Prette. He's had 4 class wins. Over the timing line goes Igor Orochev. 2 laps to go. There's time for 2 more. Over the line goes Prette. Over the line goes Montserrat. In the background is Lucas Segu. So the gap first to second is 1.8. The gap second to third, 3.4. It's come down a bit, but on that lap, what, 1.2 seconds? Yeah, so Montserrat is closing, but I don't think he's quite going to get there in time.
No, that's the biggest gap we've seen, and it was a bad lap from Prette rather than a fast lap from Montserrat in this silver Mercedes. So Prette needs to try and get back down into the 36s ideally. Last lap was a 37.4. We're talking about small margins, 4 tenths is what I'm asking of Philippe Prette, but that's what he needs to make sure that this 3.2 second gap now doesn't get any smaller. And then Segu at the moment, 12 seconds is the penalty he's going to get. He's 12.2 in front of Homola. Homola's been given the hurry up, I think, here, and is potential there for the last podium position in Pro-Am to swap.
Luca Pirelli is on a final warning for track limits, and Nil Montserrat is on his final warning for track... No, sorry, not a final warning. He has just had a track limit warning, Nil Montserrat. So he's okay. There he is. He's got a bit more scope, as it were. Lucas Segu goes through. He's got the time penalty at the end, but actually has been very neat in terms of track limits. Only one transgression, but that is Luca Pirelli. As I say, he's on his final warning now. So Luca Pirelli, 5 of them. Next time around, it is, after the driving standards flag, a penalty. So he's got to be careful.
Yeah, and at the moment, it wouldn't affect them. They're 20 seconds ahead of the car behind. I wonder if Segu should do some track limits. Like you said, he's only used one. He needs to get that gap over 12 seconds. It's 12.5 at the moment, but Segu could potentially use a couple of track limits on this last lap to cement the final podium position in Pro-Am.
It's not a bad thought. Might just help him get away a little bit further. We've got half a minute remaining. That was Segu, that is Montserrat. And the gap between these two is 5 seconds. Segu is not really being able to close sufficiently. So Nil Montserrat, good for third. And of course, second in class to this car, the blue Lamborghini then of the Artline race team, Showtron Kazava's squad. And Egor Oroshev comes hard on the brakes down through the approach to turn 8. It's back on the loud pedal the other side, accelerates now onto the double apex right, which is 9, the kink, then the corner at 10. But it's been an impressive drive, this, by Egor Oroshev. We were musing during the qualifying session how much time he's ever had at Misano. Probably not that many races done here. Philippe Prette second, and Montserrat really is hacking away on the last lap. Now, the starting point was 2 seconds. He's going to be very, very close by the end of the lap, isn't he? Yeah,
Montserrat's previous lap was his fastest lap of the race as well. He's taken another 8 tenths out of him in that middle sector. I think Prette's going to be safe because this is the real last overtaking spot as they come out of 14. I think Prette will hang on.
So Egor Oroshev is on target for a first win with Showtron Kazava and a Lamborghini outright, and first win for the pair of them in the GT2 European Series powered by Pirelli. Showtron Kazava, Egor Oroshev win race 1 of the weekend. Philippe Prette just hangs on to second and to win AM for the 5th time this year, with Nil Montserrat at the end, just 9 tenths of a second behind. Then Lucas Segu finishes in 4th place, but is he 12 seconds clear of Matto Homola? Clock starts, clock ticks and ticks and ticks. Homola heading to the line. We wait for the KTM to go through, and he misses out by 1/10 of a second.
How close was that? And it was a good lap from Segu on the last lap, and Homola gave it everything, but just misses out.
And there is an ever so subdued Stefan Rossina in Bronet Formanex Lamborghini that finishes 6th, which is 5th in class, but that really is not where they wanted nor expected to be. We've heard previously at the end of the race from Stefan Rossina talking about the BOP against the Lamborghini, or whether it's worth persevering in the championship, and general grumpiness. But that will be general grumpiness for sure.
It's a bit easier to be when you're the only Pro-Am car, Lamborghini, to moan about something like that. But now 2 fast Lamborghinis have come into this series. Yeah. They need to maybe look internally at finding a bit more pace.
Yeah, because previously there was nothing really to be measured against, was there? Now there very definitely is. So Philippe Prette then, a very good AM win. And the drivers will make their way back to the pit lane, then up eventually to the podium. But a very, very good drive indeed that by Philippe Prette to win his class. And Egor Oroshev underlining why Showtron Kazava wants him as the pro in the car, because he didn't put a wheel out of line in terms of making a mistake. Yeah, okay, he got close to the wire with track limit offences, but he ultimately was the right side of them, and when he didn't have to push quite so hard, he was able to rein it back in. So Oroshev doing a very good job indeed.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to get Philippe Prette's thought on the overtake. Did he feel it was a dive bomb? It was a bit of a sim racing move in that regard. But he'll still be happy with the win, of course. But yeah, he's a good character, Philippe Prette. He tells us exactly how it is, doesn't he? He doesn't mince his words. True
enough. As down the pit road then comes the AM champ of last year. The way that he's going, you would not bet against it this year either. Philippe Prette in the Maserati. He arrives then in the Parc Fermé area with a busy timetable at Misano. The circuit's going to get busy shortly with one-make Porsche 911s for Carrera Cup France. So out of the car gets Egor Oroshev. And he will be given his Pirelli cap in a moment. He'll then head to the podium in due course. So will the winning team. So will Shota Abkhazova, his co-driver. Lots of applause for Philippe Prette, taking a class win. So Egor Oroshev out of the car, and Shota Abkhazova should be on his way to join in the celebrations. But they were in the hot water a little bit at Spa in the Super Trofeo race. Shota Abkhazova got involved in an accident on the first lap of the first race and was penalised for it. Whether that has prompted the decision to come and try something else, he might reveal. But the net result is that a win for Shota Abkhazova, who has yet to present himself, and Egor Oroshev here at Misano. The drone hovers over then the winning cars out of the classes. Philippe Prette ahead of Luca Piri and Stefan Rattal, and then we'll get Victor Marash and Petr Lisha for third in AM, and you've already got the top three out of Pro-Am, Neil Montserrat's Mercedes and Luca Segu's Lamborghini. Right, Shota Abkhazova is still sauntering, so let's hear from Egor Oroshev. He's with Alex.
There we go. You did it for Artline. You won the GT2 European Series, powered by Pirelli. What a drive. What a stint that was.
It was decent. Wasn't surprised that it's so hot inside, to be honest. Other than that, had a bit of mistakes with track limits, but managed it, I think. And yeah, pace was good, tires were good. Was controlling it more or less as much as I could.
What sort of car did Shota hand over to you?
He had me a very, very good lead in front of the cars behind that. I think Mercedes is a bit too quick, especially on the straight, so I knew I probably couldn't match that pace, but he also gave me just enough gap to get to the lead. So I think he did, out of all the AMs, he did the best drive out there, and basically it's more a victory thanks to him, because I think I could do better.
Great job. Made your mark. Well done, boys.
So Egor Oroshev then takes honours in the end by 3.4 seconds, and Shota Abkhazova hopefully will go to the podium, but it's odd these days when in a double driver race the co-driver is not there congratulating the guy that's brought the car home for the race win. But Shota Abkhazova looked pretty pleased when the lead was taken by Egor Oroshev. So Philippe Prette is our winning AM, and win number 5 of the year for him as well. Really excellent job. He's with Alex.
Philippe Prette, my goodness me, that was a tough race, and what a drive.
Yes, exactly. I try to manage after because I want to take the lead in position, but after I cannot. It's too fast, they are too fast. And I have a good result. Anyway, it's a good result. Very complicated race.
Congratulations, enjoy your podium.
Philippe Prette taking on Liquid. It is interesting how in these races the AMs like to do it themselves without a co-driver in many cases. It's happened over the years with the likes of Henri Hassan, for example, but it is demanding on the AMs who, almost by definition, aren't in the gym all the time.
Yeah, it's like a sadistic pain, isn't it?
Quite.
They love it, they're paying for it, and they want to get the most track time possible, but you could see how hard he'd been working for the hour around here at Misano.
And there in super slow-mo is Philippe Prette at the wheel of the car. So another victory for him, another excellent drive. And Philippe Prette then makes short work of the opposition. It is a huge gulf between Philippe Prette and everybody else. And really the only time we're seeing him lose out is if there's a problem, like either he's, like tomorrow, carrying 10 seconds of compensation time. And on top of that, then there's damage or somebody else makes a mistake and he gets caught up in it, like at Spa. So the provisional result is the win for Shota Abkhazova and Egor Oroshev from Philippe Prette, Alberto De Martin and Neil Montserrat taking third. Diego Locanto and Luca Segu just fourth ahead of David Kajaya and Mato Homola. Bronek Formanek and Stefan Rossina next ahead of Roberto Pampanini and Mauro Calamia after a spin. Stefan Rattal and Luca Piri ahead of Petr Lisha and Victor Marash for second and third in AM. And delayed early on, Christophe Bourret and Pascal Gibon bring home their Mercedes AMG in 10th place. So the Art Line drivers victorious. And this is how it all panned out. A good start made by Philippe Prette to lead away. Bronek Formanek was up the curve and over the grass at the first corner, and then kept on fighting all the way through turns 1, 2 and 3. Way up the curve until he was vigorously defended by Shota Abkhazova, who then made his move on the inside of Alberto De Martin. It was a bit brutal, but it worked. and Formanek also tried to get back into the mix as well. But that Lamborghini would fall away early in the stint, and only late on did it sort of wake up. But by that stage, Roberto Pampanini had made his way through into third place, and at one point it looked like he was going to do even better than that. Pampanini pulled off some mega moves at the end of the back straight, cleared, for example, Alberto Di Martin, and even though he ran a little bit wide, it still worked. The Maserati coming out ahead. Formanek then got faster as his stint came to its close. Out of nowhere, he found a whole heap of pace and came charging back past Di Martin, and then came charging back at Pampanini. So the Lamborghini that had fallen away early on starting to make amends as the pit stop window drew ever closer. But it was going to be bad news for Pampanini, who just lost the back of the car, was narrowly avoided by David Kajaya, and it was a lot of time lost as ultimately Philippe Prette was reeled in after the pit stops by Igor Oroshev, who made a big dive going into turn 8 and got the job done. Igor Oroshev then was able to break away and come through victorious. Oroshev and Shota Abkazova, race winners in race 1 in the GT2 European Series, powered by Pirelli. So drivers making their way to the podium. Another race for the GT2 European Series tomorrow. There's Igor Oroshev in the background. Shota Abkazova, there's Philippe Prette. Certainly feeling it now, but still, even though sun's racing here, not tempted to say, do you know what, come and drive with me tomorrow. So still the sadist in them, wanting as much time behind the wheel as is possible.
If you thought that was stressful, then watching his son race, like you said, later on, 8:15 local time, it'll be even more stressful.
Yeah, true enough. So there is Philippe Prette, all smiles, but a class win. Shota Abkazova, as I said early on, he's owned circuits, ran teams, ran championships, raced all manner of cars. He was the importer of legends into his part of the world a while ago, not only selling them, but then organising a championship. So a real motorsport impresario is Shota Abkazova.
He used to import David Addison's.
Oh no, there's only one of those, you'll be delighted to know. So, to the podium they will head in a moment. We're getting the winning AM drivers there as well. So we need Igor Oroshev, Shota Abkazova, Neil Montserrat and Alberto Di Martin, and also Lucas Segu and Diego Locanto. But he's a very happy Igor Oroshev.
With Stefan Vettel getting on the podium, can you think of another time where someone's had to pay for their own champagne they're about to spray?
There are our first set of drivers then out onto the podium. Diego Locanto and Lucas Segu taking third place in their first outing, and because Diego is new to the championship, he needs the requisite sponsors patches sticking to his overalls. They don't want to stay. Out for second place come Alberto Di Martin and Neil Montserrat. The Mercedes AMG drivers second in Pro-Am, but third overall. And then the top step of the Pro-Am podium goes to Igor Oroshev and Shota Abkazova. To the top step go Shota. There is Igor Oroshev then, and for the Art Line Racing team there will be the national anthem. So for the Art Line Racing Kazakhstan team, national anthem, and then the trophies presented courtesy of Pirelli to Diego Locanto and Lucas Segu, who's been a very formidable driver within the Italian GT Championship these last few years. There to Alberto Di Martin and Neil Montserrat, the trophy for second. And then the trophy to the team before we get to Shota Abkazova and Igor Oroshev as the race winners, receiving the trophies courtesy of Pirelli, and delight a hard-won race, even though it wasn't the biggest grid. It did, as we expected, kept us guessing all the way through. And it was quite a gap that Egor Oroshev had to pull back, which he did with great skill. So well done to the Lamborghini drivers. Lamborghini wins this year have been quite prevalent, but first time for the Artline squad. And Shotrub Kazama was saying, do we really need to spray the champagne? Yeah, go on, let's do it. So a happy Shotrub Kazama celebrates with Egor Oroshev on the podium. And let's see whether they can do the same tomorrow. It's not going to be easy because they will have a 10-second compensation time to serve on top of the pit stop reg when you get to the window tomorrow. So as far as the championship is concerned, this is how we look going into tomorrow's race. Brunet Formanek, Stefan Rossina, who today were 5th in class. They're still ahead of a troubled Mauro Calamia and Roberto Pampanini, Neil Montserrat and Alberto Di Martin. They were only 8 points back, with Homola next, then David Kajaya, who's joined in late. Simon Birch is racing in GT3 these days, so I think we've lost him and Thomas Anderson. Ara Kreimer we haven't seen for a couple of rounds, but points on the board straight away for Egor Oroshev and Shotrub Kazava, and also for Lucas Segu and Diego Locanto. So the Pro-Am podium awaits. Misano getting busy, getting noisy, because the next race that's going to be on track is another visitor to these shores, Carrera Cup France racing. But to the podium come Victor Marash and the taller, bespectacled Petrolicia for 3rd in Am, Luca Piri and Stefan Rattel for 2nd place. Stefan paying for his champagne, paying for his trophy as well. And then you'll have the race winners come forward, and that is going to be for LP Racing, a team rep and a driver. Philippe Prette on his own for the top step of the podium, victorious in Am here at Misano. And we will also have the Iron Cup winners, and that's going to be Alberto Di Martin and Neil Montserrat. LP Racing, the winning team, and the trophies being presented then, first to Petrolicia and Victor Marash. Then it will be for Stefan Rattel and Luca Piri. Good to see the Audi back on track. We've had quite a few of them over the history of the championship, but good to see the cars returning again, and hopefully those that are in existence can be tempted out, because there's no other obvious home to go and race a GT2 car at the minute.
No, and they show how competitive they can be as well, so why wouldn't you bring out if you've got one? Exactly right.
And there, Philippe Prette takes the winner's trophy, and then the Iron Cup award goes to Neil Montserrat and to Alberto Di Martin. So happy drivers all round. They get a further race, of course, tomorrow, the second race day at this Misano weekend, and the GT2 drivers will be on track at 9 o'clock. They get a pretty early start tomorrow, but that enables them to be away early and get back to, in many cases, running their businesses on Monday morning. So the timetable is with quite a bit of thought, but bravo to our winning drivers, and we'll see them back on track at 9 in the morning. 10:25 after that, the qualifying session tomorrow for GT3. We've got GT4 racing as well this weekend. So the podium starts to clear and the track starts to fill once more as we have cars coming to the grid for Carrera Cup France. Well done to Shota Abkazova, Egor Oroshev and Philippe Prette as our class winners in race 1 of the GT2 European Series, powered by Pirelli.